And we're live.
We're alive.
We're live.
Oh my gosh, we're live.
Live.
And we got Josh. We're live with Josh.
Oh yeah, by the way, I put your name as Josh. Is that what you wanted?
Only if you say it the way that you normally say it.
Josh. Josh.
Okay, if anybody screws that up, we're redoing the whole video. Okay.
So yeah, let's go round robin and say who we are. Who the heck are you? Who started the video?
Okay, well, I will go and get started. So this is Hobby Vomit. Welcome everybody. I'm Ian, and we've got
Matt.
And
Josh.
I'm actually pointing based on my Discord. I have no idea what organization you chose for their credit.
Yeah, I think you got it.
Okay, perfect. Well, welcome everybody. So we are continuing our book discussion on the Devils. There's been a little bit of a delay. Most of that's actually my fault. Apologies. We had a new baby, and so we're 6 weeks now, which is awesome.
Congratulations.
But I was really enjoying.
Straight, man. Come on.
Yeah, I know, right? We got to do a book discussion for every child, so you have to wait a couple of years for the next one. But I really wanted to participate in the final discussion on Devils. We were getting through 3, and we were like, hey, we should just do 3 and 4 together like we did with 1 and 2. And so now for this one, we're kind of doing the whole mixture of kind of selling you on our scores for the Devils now that we finished it, and then kind of talking about part 3 and part 4. So as we go through it, just be aware that we'll give our scores without spoiling too much, and then we'll have a more spoiler-intensive discussion as we go through 3, and then ultimately go through 4, and we'll try to be quite limited. We'll try to limit ourselves a little bit as we're talking about 3, not to like go into 4, so that way people can kind of bracket themselves if they would like. And then just overall, just gonna talk about the things we love, things we didn't love, and just overall our impressions of the book.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So like you said, yeah, I think if you're worried about spoilers, we'll keep our scores. We're gonna put the front end of the video being our scores. That way, if you're only interested in what we thought in our final scores, in our we'll talk about the BARF here in a second. Then you can just watch that. We'll keep that spoiler free, and then you can tune out, and we will then let you know when we're gonna get into spoilers. But yeah, so if you're new to the channel, welcome. And so normally we score books here based off of our world-renowned, world-famous, used in bookstores by booktubers across the globe, our BARF system here. So what is the BARF system? Right? Patent pending, yeah. So basically we're going to score the book on 4 categories. Each of those categories will score out of 5. And the acronym is BARF. B, being believable, so how believable are the characters in their setting. A is authorial voice, which is kind of a blanket for like prose or just writing style in general. Appeal, world building, blanket. Next is R, which is rhythm. So that covers the plotting and the pacing of the book. And then F is feeling, which Ian and I, if you've seen our previous ones, kind of had a different F. Now we've combined our Fs. We're Fing each other, if you will. So F for me was feeling, for like emotional impact. It made me feel anything. And then Ian, what is your F?
Yeah, so the way I can look at it is F is sort of your impression after completing the book. So overall, what impression or what feelings did the book leave you with? Is there like a lesson or a thought or an idea or something that kind of resonated with you after reading the book? So, but I do, I guess I should recognize that I came in with BARF. You know, Matt's done several, so I'm the one who kind of effed up the whole categorization system. Yeah, so my bad. I effed up the F.
No, I like that because for certain books, like, you know, if a book makes me cry, right, then it's easy for me to evaluate emotional impact. But sometimes there isn't that strong of an emotional impact, but like it doesn't feel like a book deserves like a super low score here because it's going to impact its score overall. So I like that. I like combining them. I think it makes it more of a fair category for certain books. So yeah. So we'll just kind of start each category. At the end of that, we will give our final score, in which we just do the average of those 4, and we round up to the nearest 0.25, or at least that's how round up to something. And then we'll pitch the book, maybe do a little if it's for you, if it's not for you, and spoiler-free way, and then we'll hit the spoilers. So, any thoughts before we jump into the BARF?
I'm good. Anything from you, Josh?
No, think I'm good.
Okay, so let's start with B. which is believable. How believable are the characters in their setting? We'll rotate who goes first for each letter. So clockwise on my screen is Ian, then myself, then Josh. So Ian, why don't you kick us off with B? I'll start the A. Josh, you start the R.
Yeah,
Back to
so B for believable. I gave it a 4 on believable. And I will say that this is one that actually started for me a little bit lower and then built up over time, which I think is fair. There were there were only a few characters that was really latched onto in the beginning. And then several more started to develop in ways that I got more attached to them over time. And I certainly do think that the characters feel like they fit in their setting. I never looked at a character and was like, you don't belong here. But there were certainly characters that by the end, I was like, it would just have been really nice to have even more time or more development with those characters. And so ultimately I gave it a 4.
All right. I gave it a 4.25. I'm kind of right there with you. I think this is Joe Abercrombie's strong suit, his strength as a writer. And I think all of the character work is really, really good. I think he just tried to juggle. There's so many characters that someone was going to take a hit as far as page count and time spent with. So my favorite characters were the ones we spent the most time with. And then, the ones we didn't, I was left feeling like I like this character. They're a good character, but I really need more time with them to really feel a strong way about them. So not really a bad thing. I just needed more, and we'll kind of talk about when we get more into rhythm and the pacing and plotting of like, I think that could have been remedied. I think that was possible to pull off. And so because he didn't, I knocked it. But overall, like, I think like, 5, I don't have a great memory, but 5-10 years down the road, I will be able to remember these characters. And to me, that's like a success. So 4.25 out of 5 for me.
All right, this is my first time using the BARF scale, so probably have to tune it over time.
Josh has never barfed once in his life. So.
True. I just off the gut, I just did 3.5 out of 5. My overall thoughts and feelings were higher end because of how strong some of the characters are and just how well Joe does with them. I guess I just took down some points just because some of the characters I just wasn't really that interested in, didn't have that much of an impact on me. And then, I think just because there's so many, some of the non-main characters just felt like repeats of the exact same characters that we kind of encountered throughout the book. So that was just kind of my thoughts. But also, I'll just share with everyone, this is my first Joe Abercrombie book. So really, really enjoyed getting to know the characters. I mean, I know we're talking about parts 3 and 4, but right off the first page, I already felt like, all right, like I'm in for a really good experience here with these characters that we're going to get to know. So overall, really enjoyed it, but landed a little bit above average.
Awesome. All right. Moving on to A, authorial voice. So I gave this also a 4.25. I think Joe's prose is really, really good and very like, I think if you handed me a book and I opened it and I didn't know it was Joe Abercrombie, I could probably tell you it is, based off of the way that he writes. I think it's just, and I think the world building in this book was great. Simple, but effective, I think. I see a lot of complaints that, he just changed one little thing and like called it original. It's like, no, it's supposed to be close to home. Like that's the point. And like, he's not setting out to do something super, super original. He's just trying to refine something. So I thought the alternate history, Europe like worked really well for me. World building was great. I think prose was great. I think the humor was pretty good. That's really my biggest knock here is the humor. It's good. It is more excessive than all other Joe Abercrombie, where this is like it is a comedy. It's not as bad as a lot of people. If you're just watching this and you're wondering, you hear a lot of people say it's the comedy. People act like there's like 300 jokes a page, like every sentence is a joke, and there's really not. Like there are a lot of jokes, there's not that many, but it is more than his usual. And just like any comedy out there, period. Not every joke is going to land as well as the others. I think most of them did land for me, especially with Stephen Pacey's narration. I think the delivery was there. So, 4.25 out of 5 for me. Josh?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I gave this a 4 out of 5. Joe's prose rolls right off the tongue very well. Really enjoyed his writing style. So I'm excited to check out more by Joe. World building. Yeah, I've heard other comments too. People trying to claim like he was being lazy, and I thought he nailed. I mean, I guess I'm not Joe. I don't know his intent, but I feel like for me, he nailed exactly what I was supposed to like engulf myself in world-wise with these characters and the intent, and slightly changing the religious organizations. And then I'm on your side of the fence with the humor. I've read other books where I felt like the humor fell very flat for me, felt a little forced. There may have been a couple of times that happened in this book, but not memorable enough for me to just think of right now off the top of my head. So I felt like it was enjoyable humor. And when it happened, like it just made sense to me. Even if it was like a joke that I didn't like or think was funny, it wasn't because I thought it was written badly. It was probably just because that character, that's just who they are. And it's like, oh, they're just being who they are.
Yeah.
He's just staying true to their voice
Mhm.
instead of trying to force something that might land better. So yeah, I thought it was really, really good. Really enjoyed the authorial voice.
That's our fancy
Yeah.
acronym letter.
Yeah.
All right,
Nice. So I probably have the lowest score on this one. I give it a 3.25. There were several things I really loved about the world building. I would say that in terms of like lore or in terms of magic, I don't necessarily think these are the things that the book is going to be remembered for or known for, or I don't really feel like that was what Joe was going for. Not that I think he was being lazy, but I just don't think that's the forefront of this. I think it's very much about the characters and understanding enough to understand the context of what their journey is. So if you're someone who's like really excited about like magic systems, that's not here, right? I mean, there is magic, but it's very, very soft. So I definitely want to give it a higher. The thing that really hurt my score was the fact that this may be a lot more subjective, but I wasn't very happy with how the narrator was handled. And I was a little concerned about this after the first two parts, but it really came to a full head in the fourth part. There is a lot of times in which Joe Abercrombie presents a narrator and then will shift to using the character's voice as the narrator, or bleeding in the character's knowledge or particular let's say particular dispositions into the narrator. And I think sometimes it's done for humor. But overall, it made the narrator a little bit confusing. I was trying to understand whether or not I'm still in one person's perspective or if I'm not in one person's perspective, if I have a neutral voice or if I have that character's voice. And I think it became more problematic by the fourth part just because at that point we had now developed so many of the characters and we were starting to get a lot of duos. And so that just made the narrator a bit confusing for me. And so I had mentioned it in the first two parts because I was a little concerned because like use of F-bombs, for example, from the narrator is like what first clued me to the fact that the narrator was like adopting character voices. And part of it might also be listening onto audiobook because like Stephen Pacey does a phenomenal job, but like he's using the narrator voice as the narrator, but then he'll go from like using like Viga's voice to then using the narrator's voice. It's like, but I think this is still Viga technically. Like I'm kind of just like in her head now, but then all of a sudden I'm not in her head. So that did get a little bit confusing, and arguably some of that could be the audiobook, even though again the narration is so good on the audiobook. But yeah, so I got 3.25.
All right, moving on to R rhythm, which is plotting and pacing. Josh, kick us off.
Yeah, I gave that a 3 out of 5. Yeah, just simple plot. Yeah, no, we're doing non-spoilers, so I won't go too much into that. But yeah, nothing that's gonna blow your mind, but that I don't think means that it's not something that you won't enjoy. It's just that's for me where it landed was a 3 out of 5 for that. Pacing pretty good throughout the book. There was a couple of moments for me that I didn't really feel was necessary to stop in certain places and kind of dwell in those areas. So for me, that's why I dropped it a few points just from some of those moments. But overall, I feel like the overall idea landed with how the book is pitched to you. and was a really satisfying conclusion, and has me excited to hopefully in the future get back into this world and see these characters again.
Nice. All right, Ian.
Yeah, so I gave it a 3.75. I think the thing that hurts is the fact that this is a 4-part book where very much each part could be kind of distinguished by a particular cousin, which I think is a great way to like organize the content, but at the same time it does kind of create this sort of sense of redundancy of like now we're working towards the next cousin, now we're working towards the next cousin, now we're working towards the next cousin, and sort of every single part is framed that way. And I think really created like a lot of slowdown. We talked about this with the last one, but kind of like coming near to the end of part 2, it's kind of like, oh, okay, like we get it now, right? And part 3 had it, each part is unique, but it kind of adds a redundancy. One of the things that really salvaged it for me though, was the fact that part 4 is so distinct. And I really like how Joe handled the rhythm of part 4, where normally with stories you have this big climax and you have this what's called a denouement, which is like a resolution. And I love the way that he like introduced an early denouement, where basically after part 3 we kind of get this rest period into going into part 4, and then we get to then kind of spend some more time with the characters rather than just it being part 4. Let's rush to the ending. Let's get this done, right? And at first I was like, man, why are we slowing down so much? And then I came to appreciate it. I was like, that was really cool. Like thinking to do an early, just like a rest period rather than just rushing us all the way through. And so I really love the way he handled that, and that kind of bumped the score up for me. So 3.75.
Nice. I'm right between you guys. I'm at 3.25. I think it has some pacing issues personally. I think kind of to echo what you both said, I think I can see why a lot of people fall off this book at the end of part 2. I see why a lot of people put it down and say, I'm okay if I don't move on from here, because it does really much feel like exactly what you said, Ian. It's like, the beginning presents us with a quest. It's a quest book. It's very simple. And then it gives us exactly that. Part 1 is part 1 of that quest. Part 2 is part 2 of that quest. Part 3 is part 3 of that quest, and so on and so forth. But to me, just to, I guess, I'm not in any spoiler way, but I think part 3 was a very large improvement on part 2 for me, and 4 I think was the best part of the book. So I think it ends really, really strong, and it does. Part 4 isn't exactly what you think it's going to be, and I'm really glad it wasn't, because I was struggling with that pacing a little bit in part 2. I think the book could have been, I don't know, 100 pages shorter, and it would have been fine for it. Or we spent, like I was saying in Believable, we spend that 100 pages on, take out the journey aspect and give me some more character work on the characters that aren't as fleshed out, and I would have been really happy with that.
Yeah.
And then plot, it's simple. But to me, simple plots are okay if they're executed well. And I think, Joe tells us in the very beginning of the book, here's what you're about to get, and then he delivers that. Not perfectly, but I think his execution was pretty good overall, with some twists that I wasn't expecting. So I thought the plot was overall good, but, that's just not Joe's thing for me. It's like the characters. They're really what are driving this book. So yeah, 3.25 for me. And then let's move on to the final category, which is F, feeling. Ian,
Yes.
kick us off.
So I give it another 3.75 for feeling. I think that the emotional payoff of the book definitely comes in part 4. And so if you're sort of earlier on in the book and you don't feel like there's an emotional payoff, I think that's because the book is very much building to that, the character work and the plot itself. It's just I wouldn't say, it kind of in its own way, it's a slower build up to sort of the emotional payoff in part 4. I did feel like it had a strong emotional payoff in part 4. In terms of its overall impression, I didn't feel like the book was leaving me with as significant as an impression. Part of that could just be because the moral lesson the book is teaching is one that's pretty common. It's definitely like not a novel concept, which is okay. It doesn't have to be. I think that for me, and I'll get into this when we talk about part 4, but I think there were some problems with the way that the lesson was portrayed, the kind of impression I want to give, because of these sort of contradictory factors that I'll kind of get into with the character work. But overall, I do really enjoy the kind of premise and the kind of impression the book is trying to leave, trying to give you that overall sense of people are more nuanced than just any stereotype may convey, which is, I think, is an overall really cool lesson. And I do really like that impression. But yeah, for me, just kind of taking those things in stride, I give it a 3.75.
All right. This is my lowest scoring category. This is a 3 out of 5 for me. Yeah, again, to kind of mirror what you said, I didn't really leave this book feeling very much. I did think part 4 ramped that up pretty significantly, right? You get those character payoffs, and that's good. And, you know, it is like a found family trope, if you will. And, like, I thought he handled that really well. But, like, will I think about this book very much in 5 years? Beyond the characters. I think 5 years from now, we could talk about Viga, and I'll know exactly what Viga was like, because I think again, that's a strength. But, like, actual plot points of this book, other than the overall, this is what happened in the book, I don't really think I'll be thinking about this book too much beyond that. And for that, I think I think the humor landed for me, which, I think it brought me some amount of joy that I think books, it's hard to do, I think. Good humor in a book format. And it might be different if I hadn't listened to it. Again, this is another thing that I think if people fall off this book and they're not, which, to be fair, that shouldn't be a crutch. It shouldn't be, you have to listen to this on the audiobook, because that's really what drives it home. But, there are a lot of people that will speed read or something, right? And if you're speed reading a physical book and you just, you're reading through a joke, you're missing the delivery. And delivery is what makes humor work. And so if you're not missing all that delivery, I could see how all those jokes would be like, didn't work. Because you're just reading it flat. But overall, yeah, I was happy with it. I kind of just don't feel any particular way about it. So I just gave it the flat middle of the ground 3.
Yeah. I gave it a 2.75 out of 5. I don't know if I have too much more to add than what you both shared. There's probably a couple of parts that stood out to me that I can think of that were memorable for this particular topic of feeling. Yeah, other than that, I think I'm just gonna echo what you said, Matt. Like, several years from now, I don't think I'm gonna be like, oh, like, I remember how this book, like, overall made me feel. In part 4, probably felt a little stronger than other parts, but yeah, that's about where I landed.
Awesome. All right, so let's go around now, and we will say our final score, and then just if 1 or 2 sentences about just overall thoughts with the book. So I'll go ahead and kick it off. So my average was a 3.68, which I rounded it up to a 3.75. So 3.75 out of 5 for the Devils. Overall thoughts, I had a good time with this book. I think it could have been a little bit shorter. I think this is a really good jumping on point for Joe. I also think fans of the First Law would like this if you go in with the right expectations. It's not, I do think it's his worst book of the ones that I've read, but worst doesn't mean bad. If this is if this is the floor for Joe, I think that's a win. And, I am excited. In the middle of the book, maybe I wasn't like, oh, I can't wait for the next Devils. But after the ending, like, I am excited to see him kind of refine this and put out a second volume. So overall, enjoyed it. I think it's a good book if you just want to pick it up and have a good time and not, it's not going to teach anything new, but it's a good time.
Yeah, I think mathematically, I'm like a 3.3. When I first finished the book, I landed at like a 3.75. I think just Joe's writing, the characters, and part 4 just had me. Just had me glad that I read the book and enjoyed it. But yeah, just putting some more thought into it. Maybe a little bit lower than that, but I'm still happy to stand by a 3.75. And I've been able to talk to some other people about it, and I've enjoyed the opportunity to like recommend it to them and just kind of give them an idea of what they're jumping into. So I think it's a good book. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Alrighty.
Yeah, and so then I would I land the same as Matt. I landed with like a 3.68. We just rounded up to like 3.7, 3.75. The way I kind of look at this book, because when I can't remember, but Matt, like, you started reading fantasy later, or you really only got like a bug for it later, or if at all?
It's only been like 18 months since I started like my reading journey.
So the kind of the way I would think about this, and almost in a way I would kind of like pitch a book too, is If you're someone who kind of grew up reading fantasy or really started with like young adult fantasy or just teen fantasy, there's a certain way that those books are, and if you go back and you read them, you'll realize that they are very gimmicky and are very tropey, but in a way that's like really fun, and especially if you're someone who's just getting into fantasy. But then there's sort of a question of like, well, what would it mean to have more mature fantasy or to be able to explore more mature topics, but in a way that's sort of similar to that same type of gimmick, simplicity. And I think that's like what Joe Abercrombie is really capturing. And I mentioned that in our last video. I kind of talked about this as like a shelf stalker, like not in a bad way of just like you need fantasy books that have like a very simple gimmick. Like this is just what it is. And I think like Joe captures that idea of a young adult fantasy but actually for adults, like with mature topics, with mature discussions, with mature relationships, but similar gimmicks, similar humor, and in a way that's very like clever. Like he's very meta in many cases. And so for me, that's kind of what this is. So if you're looking for like a very intricate fantasy, and like a lot of world building, a lot of lore, or like intricate magical systems, or like intricate webs of like conspiracies and things like that, that's not really what this is. I think this is just a sort of modern, improved like young adult fantasy, but actually for adults. And I love that as like a bridge, So if anybody's out there who have enjoyed fantasy their whole lives, maybe want to get back into it, or maybe want to find like a way to get a more mature fantasy book, like I think this is a great way to start that on ramp into the fantasy genre.
It is way more crass than most adult fantasy, though. Yeah. Know that going in.
Adult fantasy. I've emphasizing adult fantasy. Okay.
I think I've got a good I just want to say that after I've thought about it some more, I think all the D&D podcasts have just like really become popular the last 10 years or so. Obviously, we've got Critical Role. That's probably the more popular one out there. And so we've got Vox Machina now, the animated show. So I would say if you've watched Vox Machina, you know how adult it is. You've got kind of like a good idea of the adult humor, the violence. I would say this isn't quite as high quality as Vox Machina, The Devils, but I'd say you're in that area. So if you enjoyed it, I feel like you would really enjoy Vox Machina. It gives like those D&D party vibes. You've got your quest you're going to go on, and you're going to have a fun journey along the way with all the characters as well.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect comparison. Yeah, and just if you like those type of podcasts or whatever, I don't know if they call them podcasts or shows or whatever. This really does just feel like Joe was like, I want to do my own D&D mission, so here it is.
Somebody's like, I want to do D&D, guys, and like nobody says yes. He's like, I'm just gonna write my own book then.
Those are our final scores. And I think we're gonna. This is spoiler territory. Spoilers.
Yeah.
Spoilers. So, if you've not read the book, now you know our scores. Maybe that told you what you need to know whether you want to start it or not.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. So now we're gonna go kind of pick up where we left off on our last video. A little kind of a not traditional way of continuing a series, but we kind of wanted to get these into one video so we can move on to the next book. So what we didn't do is, I think which we should, is talk about our predictions. That's something to remember. So maybe we can kick it off with our predictions that we wrote down for part 2, or if anyone had any. And then we will just do a spoiler, kind of just going through what happens in part 3, then what happens in part 4. It's been about a month since I finished it, so I'm gonna kind of just tag on to you, you both. I can't remember when you finished it, Josh.
About a month ago.
So Ian will be the captain here.
I finished it today, so I had paced myself like finishing it today. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So did anyone, before we start part 3, I've got the predictions that Ian and I wrote down from part 1 and part 2. So maybe we can address those. Josh, did you have any? I know I forgot to tell you that we were going to do this, but...
No, it's okay. I didn't write this down, so we'll see if anyone believes me. But I did talk to you about it, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
So we're okay to just talk about anything now, right?
Spoilers, yeah.
For 3 and 4. I just had really strong vibes that Alex was not actually like the princess. So I won't say that I predicted her actual end result where she was a thief impersonating the real Alex. I didn't think that was going to happen. I just felt like we were playing more into the church role, just going through all of like the ceremonies and motions. And this is not me trying to be disrespectful of anyone's faiths. I just felt like Joe was just kind of portraying that the leaders in this particular story were just okay with finding this person and going through the motions to validate that they were who they were. I just felt really sus about that and felt like he was kind of like hinting a little bit at there's just something not right there. So that was kind of like really the only like thing that I felt I was excited to see how that played out. So that was really fun for me to see how Alex kind of turned out there in the end.
Nice. Was there anything that you were like, I'm pretty sure this is going to happen that didn't end up happening?
Nothing comes to mind right now. If I think of anything, I'll bring it back up.
Okay. So looking at our stuff that we had written down, Ian, looking at part 1. So just top of the line, Eusebius is not dead. He and or Michael are in on it. So I think that was mine. I was extremely sus of Eusebius, or just them together. We never see Eusebius again or hear his name ever again, which is hilarious because I just was so set on Duke Michael saying, this guy, he is not expendable. You protect him at all costs. And then he dies and he never mentions him again, which is hilarious. But Duke Michael being in on it, I'll give myself a partial point for that. He was in on it, but not fully like I thought he was going to be. That was the first thing.
Now that you've pointed out Eusebius, it's like a missed joke opportunity where like he shows up later in the book at like a battle and he catches an axe like in the head and just like dies immediately.
Me, Eusebius. I was very convinced that the St. Beatrix vial of blood was going to come into play, which it didn't.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that too. I was like on the edge of my seat because I feel like Brother Diaz started talking about it again at the end, and then nothing really like.
And I like what ends up happening with it, but it's not in like a way that I thought like, I thought Rickard was gonna drink it and go like Super Saiyan or something like that, like. But really, I do really like what ends up happening with it, but we will give myself 0 points. For that one.
I'm just picturing Rickard just taking it. He just like goes blonde hair, like his oars, like everything.
It's like Fabio.
All the dumplings. Let me tell you about all the dumplings with Poland.
Great. Yeah, it's I was close. So we also did write down Alex is not the rightful heir, which we kind of got right. Wait, we did 2. So one of us put Alex is not the rightful heir, and then the other person put. So I said she's not. Mm-hmm. All right, and you put Alex is the rightful heir, but is the key to completing Eudoxia's experiment, or will be possessed by Eudoxia.
Yeah, I thought Eudoxia was going to try to. I thought she would still be alive and try to transfer her soul into Alex. Like I did.
You're kind of close. I mean,
kind of close.
Alex,
the soul, the soul transfer thing. That was what I was expecting. I was expecting some kind of soul transfer. I just expected that there was this need for because there's always this big talk about like the pyrogenitus. So I just thought there was like a need for that. So
yeah. We put Brother Diaz sacrifices himself for a member of the group, which he didn't. I was to say he almost was like willing to, kind of at the end, but it doesn't end up happening. Although someone does end up sacrificing themselves for a member of the group, so very close. And then also that Jakob dies somehow, so that was just that one did not happen. And I think we have.
I guess one could argue that he sort of did, but
he did die somewhere.
Close.
And then just
you're in the right realm.
Yeah. So we had only 3 at the end of part 2. Those were all predictions we made at the end of part 1. At the end of part 2, we had 3 predictions. The first one is that Alex is going to turn herself in or try to abandon the devils. No, didn't happen.
No, not really.
I mean, she was like trying to do the opposite, trying to hang on to them when she wasn't really allowed to, bargaining for them. They'll spend part 3 mostly separate.
Yep.
I think that happened. And more puke from Balthazar. which I don't know. Did he end up actually? I know he felt nauseous at some points, but he kind of turned the corner.
Yep.
After the demon thing, he doesn't get stricken with sickness, right?
No, not really.
They do imply that in part 4 they're all stricken with sickness, but they
need to leave.
Because they went back instead of heading straight back, right?
So, but they're all able to keep a lid on it.
Yeah.
So
we did okay. Did all right. He had some nice. I thought Joe had some really nice twists and turns that I wasn't expecting. But as those come up, we can kind of talk about that. But let's talk about part 3. I don't remember the part's name, and I probably won't be able to just find it by flipping through here in half a second.
I don't remember the part.
I don't remember. Part 3, in which we had just left the crew all being kind of thrown off the boats.
Part 3 is high roads, low roads.
High roads, low roads.
High roads.
So overall, let's just start here. Overall, what did you enjoy the part? Did you not enjoy the part? Just overall thoughts about the part. If anyone
second best part of the book. Second best part of the book. The maybe coolest scene in the book. The lead up to the stones, right? So Balthazar wanting to go to the stones, which was so subtle, right? Which is so subtle. Like, oh yeah, we need to find Alex. This is the way that we're gonna do it. Like, oh, it's like, okay, fine. Because again, soft magic system. So who am I to argue with the fact that like he needs druid stones? And then the summoning the demon was like epic. I mean, that was absolutely epic.
Yeah.
Even like Baron Ricard is like freaking out. And so that was a really, really cool and epic scene. Maybe again one of the coolest scenes in the book. But I
thought it was
really
peak humor
that.
too.
Yeah, it somehow made it like funny in a serious moment that doesn't just feel like it's funny for the sake of funny.
Yeah.
And it also kind of gave us some pretty crazy information with the demon. Is just like, no, I'm good. Like, because
like really good information.
We're pretty sure this is the second coming of the Savior.
Yeah, of how legit the Pope is.
Yeah. Which, by the way, just because I've got it, I know I already showed you two, but in the broken binding, which this is a ballsy thing to put on the opening cover. I kept waiting for this, but like here's Balthazar summoning the demon. I don't remember the demon's name. But I kept waiting for that. And I was like, man, did we read this? And I just don't remember because I'm pretty sure we didn't. and then that happens.
Yeah, I can't remember her name. She's Duke of Hell.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name. But yeah, I'm curious though. Did any of you guys actually think she'd be able to like help?
I got nervous there for a bit just because it starts out with the dialogue of like, well, you're basically going to be my slave forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know where it was going with Balthazar because I don't know. I could see Balthazar leaving the crew there. He'd eventually maybe finding his way back, but it was an interesting thing to. Well, we can talk about more in a second. But any other overall general thoughts about part 3? Or you just want to talk about that scene?
Part 3 is where they had just gotten off the shipwreck, right? And they go off into the Civil War part.
Yep, they're separated. It's basically like getting the crew back together with the showdown at the cemetery.
Yeah, that part was kind of F for me. I know we had a good talk about that. You had some good insight for me, Matt, just on like Joe's writing and being in like a historical moment. So that was helpful for me. But yeah, definitely just the summoning of the demon was like the highlight for me.
Yeah. This is also my second favorite part. I thought this was a big step up from part 2. I don't think it opens really strong with them being separate. There's a lot of dialogue. We found out a little bit about Brother Diaz, but really I really loved how we got the crew back together because we needed to somehow, and the story needed to naturally flow into that, and I thought it did really well. I really like the kind of Civil War because at first we don't know we have people on both sides of that, and then when the big moment happens, there are stakes there for me of like, well, what's going to happen here? Because we got people on both sides. Are they going to fight? Are we going to lose somebody? And then it kind of comes together for that big epic demon moment, which is great. And as far as the like finale of this with the cemetery, I'm not normally one for big, long, drawn out action sequences, but this I think was the best one of the book with the angel wings and the big Balthazar summoning the undead. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I thought. So I enjoyed this part.
Did this part also have where Viga and the other werewolf square off? Was that at the graveyard?
Square off.
That was the start of the.
That was the start of the fight. That's right. They go
I
right.
Vika just
I
has
would
sex with
say-
everybody in this part.
I was gonna say that's probably like if I were to say one humor part was like, it would probably be that part where they end off just starting a fight, and I felt like that should have been a little bit more of a cooler action scene than them just going off and effing each other.
Yeah. It's the instincts they take over. They can't help it.
Yeah.
There were a lot, quite a few actually. It happens 3 times in this part, and it got me every single time. With you think something bad is going to happen, and then nope, they're just lovers, and so it happens with like Baptiste in the jail. We find out the person that has like jailed them, Baptiste, is just like
That's
close.
the Countess.
Yeah, the Countess.
Yep.
And then with the 2 sides of the Civil War.
Yep.
It's like, surely it's not going to happen again. And then it does happen again. And then Viga and the other werewolf, we finally get like a badass showdown. And it's like, nope, they're just going to go off and, which I agree. There's a part of me that wanted to see the werewolves fight. But I do think it's on brand for them being werewolves. And like, if he's anything like Viga, if that's how werewolves are, like, I get it. Like, they're in full form. They found the good meat. In each other.
I guess you can phrase it.
So yeah, it was nice too to kind of because we had voiced our concerns with part 1 and 2 of like, is the same thing going to happen to get them out of every situation? And Viga has gotten them out of part 1 and part 2, and they kind of work together to get out of part 2. But Viga did have a big moment, and Viga really doesn't have a moment. I mean, she gets a werewolf off of them, which is huge, but the whole fight is Viga-less, and I was really glad that it was, even though I wanted it. So it's like, in the moment I was like, aw, but then I was like, it is kind of nice that she's just not there to like save the day again. They had to do something different and gave Balthazar his big moment.
Well, I think one of the strongest things that part 3 did with Viga was actually when Viga saved Alex and Sunny, because I think part of the part of the importance of part 3 with Viga is releasing. It's like it's good. The story's got to make her scary again for us as like the readers, because we're getting to know her. And so I was thinking back to this after going into part 4, but the fact that they have Brother Diaz after they've already slept together 2 or 4 times at this point, but I think 2 times at this point. I think it's 2 times at this point, but they've already slept together, so we expect there to be sort of a stronger hold. Kind of expect that like Bruce Banner, the Hulk, and Black Widow for doing MCU kind of thing. Like, oh, the sun's going low, big guy, right? And so he's like, Viga, I order you not to kill this guy, which makes total rational sense because he's a survivor. They need information. They get a little bit of information, and then she just like straight up like murders him, right? I can't remember. I think she like throws him against the wall and just like crushes him. And that for me, I felt like looking back, like that was actually really important because that showed us that there is no reins. Like when we've learned that the binding does not work on the wolf. And now we've also learned that also none of them have like any sway or power over Viga at all. And I think that was really cool for keeping her scary at all times. Not just in wolf form, but just like at all times. Yeah.
We got a little more backstory on this is really when we first get our biggest backstory on Brother Diaz as well, of like why he became a monk. Which I thought was fine. I'm glad we got it. It makes sense for his character and everything, and I liked a lot of the conversations that he and Viga had in their like budding relationship, if we'll call it that. And there's 2, again, speaking of like parallels and stuff, Sunny and Alex also form a loving relationship throughout their parts, which could have felt forced. I didn't think it did. I really actually like them together a lot, and it felt pretty natural for me. But yeah, did anyone else feel any certain way about Sunny and Alex? And that does bleed into part 4. We can talk about that more too. But just the start, like their very first moment is like, oh, okay, think they both get really, really drunk, right?
Yeah.
Is that this part?
Not their first moment. That's like the release of the romantic tension.
Oh
is
yeah,
when
yeah.
you-
The
'cause
first moment's when
first
they're on the
one,
like boat going away.
yeah, yeah, and then she kisses Sunny, and it's like that. The adrenaline's high. It's like it's coming down, right? And she like kisses her, and then there's sort of like this awkwardness of them not talking about it for quite a while, and then that's like the release is like once they're finally beat Sabahas, whatever.
Sabas,
Sabas.
Duke
Um,
Sabas.
Sabas. Yeah, so after they defeat them, that's
Yeah.
like the release of their romantic tension. Yeah.
Speaking of Sabas or whatever the hell his name is, the Duke, the cousin. Their names are also I don't remember them, to be honest. But I did like him the most of the three because I at least we followed him for the majority of the part. Like we didn't get too much information, but by the end when he like reveals his wings, I really liked that. I liked that we got to spend more. The first two brothers, it's just like, here I am, and now you got to fight me right now, and then I'm going to be gone for the rest of the book. And he's like, at least he's trailing them.
Yeah.
So it feels like when they finally meet, and maybe that's why I enjoyed the action sequence so much. It's like something we've been building to. Now we're here. There's no more running. You got to fight. And he's like, I don't know. Like it's almost like he feels so inferior that he had to modify his body to feel good about himself. And like I thought that was really cool. And he was definitely the best of the three. Well, we'll talk about the fourth, but the best of the three that we had seen thus far for me.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys got this vibe too, but it did feel like a anti-Devils vibe, if that makes sense. Because like the first time we don't get like the creatures,
Angels.
right? But it's just like, but you had like the Manhunter who's like being called out by name and title, and then you had like the Dane who's like the werewolf, and then he's got his like wings, which is sort of contrary to Baron Ricard in a way, right? It just sort of felt like we were like going against like the Nega Devils or
They
like
got the
Troy Devil.
the twin sorceresses.
Sorcerers, yes, yeah. So it was like kind of going against like the Troy Devils in a way.
Yeah.
I think they could have been definitely driven home like a little bit harder, but that's kind of what it felt like. And I did think that was really cool, like a cool setup for a fight of giving us something different, and especially as it's like the third fight so close to Troy, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, this is kind of the first drops of like we kind of start to learn a little bit about the magic system along Balthazar. And I really like this part about Balthazar, that he is like his studying never ends. Like he wants to be the best, and he notices these little things the sorceresses are doing, like combining their powers really, or like using one to do the other. Which I think up to this point, the way he reacts to it, we are led to believe, oh, I didn't think you could do that, and now And then he has his big moment of the book, which was awesome, and I guess I gotta show it. So here he is, summoning the giant crew of undead to bring down Sabas. And this is also just big because it's, really his first moment to do anything post him trying to betray the crew.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he really steps up, which was good. He's starting to realize that these are like his found family. And
it's like him having faith in the Pope, and which is a really like interesting point in part 4 where he's like on this high of like, I'm ready to like serve and do what you want, and then he just gets punched in the face later about it all.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I mean, really, that's the majority. Unless I'm forgetting something, I think that really does sum up part 3. It's really just getting the crew back together and their journeys. Be a little bit of backstory on both sides. Being hunted by Sabas. They summon the devil, or not the devil, but a devil, the demon. Fail, and then have the showdown and defeat the third cousin.
Yeah, I think overall, I think it's worth mentioning, like the Sunny and Alex going through the burning town that's being raided.
Mhm.
That's a really cool, suspenseful scene. Kind of a neat way, rather than the fight being done in one instance, the fight is actually dragged over multiple instances where there's like sort of almost like this guerrilla warfare. Sunny tries to she like poisons their stew. She tries to cut different saddles off and things like that. They're chasing her. They use the town as a way to escape. It's on fire. It's being raided, and that caused an absolute like mayhem there. Then
She has
there's
a lot
so
of.
there's
She really gets a shine as well in this
yeah.
part, just causing mayhem.
Yeah. So Sunny, I think shines really, really brightly in this scene. I think, or in this part. I think we also get to see a lot with Balthazar in this part, and we get to see a lot with Brother Diaz in this part. I think those three characters themselves grew the most in part three, which was really cool. I've always been a big fan of Brother Diaz, and so getting to see him like grow into a leadership role, because he's the one who has the epiphany, like we're standing over hundreds of dead, right? And Balthazar's like he's done. He's like, this is where it ends. I cannot believe it. And he's like, no, we're standing over all this dead, and that geomancer has just broken up the earth for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, summon them, right? Challenge yourself. So I thought that was really, really cool. And you had also mentioned the romances. I'll go into this more with part 4, but I would have liked the romance with Sunny and Alex a lot more if I had liked Alex more.
That's fair.
It was told a lot through her voice, but I liked like the difference between my interest in Sunny and Alex is about the same as how deeply buried those dead were.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I'm mostly just happy for Sunny.
Yeah,
I love Sunny.
I was gonna say like I was happy for Sunny, and then I was sad because it didn't really work out for her in the end. She still had to leave, and yeah, that was tough.
Yeah.
It was, and it's tough to see Sunny just be like, well, that's just my life, right? Like, I just have to deal with disappointment all the time.
Yeah, poor Sunny. I'm trying to think of the. I think that's really it. Part 3. I thought I had. Oh yeah. Speaking of Sunny, the last thing I want to say. I don't know why this is the one part that stands out to me, but it's in the burning town, and she needs to get the bad guy's attention. So she just goes up on the top of a roof across the street and just like poses like a star. She's just like. I'm up here, like making herself as big as she can, and I don't know why that just was a memorable moment for her, for me. Just like I could just see her, like star posing, just great. All right, so let's talk about part 4, the final part. I'll kick it off if y'all don't mind.
Go for it.
To me, I was so relieved when we just started where we needed to be. Because I was very right. And this is Joe setting expectations and then saying, no, you thought you knew, but you didn't. I'm not going to make you wait any longer. We're here. Let's go. And then it's just like, well, what's going to happen? We got a lot of book left. I thought we were just going to journey, from the graveyard to, it's Troy, right? Mm-hmm. From the graveyard to Troy. Yep. We'll get to Troy and we're going to have our final showdown, the last 50 pages and the end. But nope, he just gets us right there, and I thought that was a really smart decision. And overall thoughts, my favorite of the 4 parts.
Josh, what do you think about part 4?
Yeah, I loved part 4. I was dragging a little bit on the beginning of part 3, and then felt like it ended well and exciting for me. And then I thought part 4 was just overall enjoyable, from the what do you call it? Brother Diaz is the professional prowess being on display, seeing his expertise. I think one of my favorite parts of the entire book is this conversation between Brother Diaz and Jakob, where Jakob's kind of just I wouldn't say he's being self-deprecating. I feel like he's just very self-aware of who he is, and I don't know if anyone's really spent a lot of time talking to him from Brother Diaz's standpoint. So going back to the BARF and the feeling, that was one part that really gave me a lot of self-reflection. So I really, really enjoyed that. And then, loved learning about Alex's reveal. I felt like it's her uncle, right? Duke Michael, is that his name? I felt like that was super predictable, but glad we got to it. And I really enjoyed part 4. It just made me excited to finish, or excited that I finished the book, and that we got a lot of awesome things that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I mean, part 4 is my favorite part of all of them. I felt like everything that the book had been building up to really paid off. I had mentioned that I was really impressed with how he handled part 4, basically getting us to Troy and then going into that denouement early to give us this rest period to basically allow for this new build up, because that opened up all these questions, right? Of like, how are we dealing with the fourth Duke? Why are we going so slow now that all of a sudden that we're at Troy? Like either the book should be over or like we should be doing something. Like, we should be killing a Duke, right? Like what's going on here? But like that rest period allowed for the tension to build up again and allowed for all these reveals. I love the delivery of those reveals, especially since they were delivered in a very meta way. Literally both of the I'd say all, not both of the big reveals, but two of the big reveals of the villains, both saying, well, like, a good mystery shows you, the twist right up front, but then still delivers in a way that surprises you. I like the fact that, like, Duke Michael, we could see that one coming literally a mile away, in this case, 1,000 miles away, because you'd called it like in part 1. But then, like, there's still an extra reveal, right, with the fact that we have the soul transfer with Eudoxia, and the fact that Michael doesn't know about it, right? So now there's this other game afoot that he's not even aware of, and so that's just like another really interesting element to it, where it's just like there's just like this one-upping game that's going on, that just feels really interesting to like see to witness unfolding, and it also in a sense like humbles the characters involved without their humbling being. I mean, their humbling comes in a different way, but it's just like Duke Michael thinks he's like literally the master tactician playing the chessboard, and it's like actually you're moving some of the pieces and you've already lost the game. You don't even know it. But that humbling comes not from Eudoxia pulling her final move, but from just the fact that a guy who can't die can just tackle him off of a tower, right? So it's just like, but you're still mortal, bro. So
you're reminding me of Cardinal Zizka too, and like all of her scheming and everything going on, that he probably just doesn't know all of that either.
Well, and this like raises questions too of like, and these are some serious questions I have, but like Cardinal Zizka, like how much has she planned for? Because I certainly don't think
we're working together, because she was the one that wrote him the letter, right?
Yeah,
right. But like, but if you're asking me, like between Duke Michael and Cardinal Zizka, like who's gonna have the upper hand? Like I would say Cardinal Zizka. I think like she's got him.
That's how I felt.
Yep. But then there's this other question of like Eudoxia, like how does that fit in? Like would that be a surprise to Zizka or not, or that just gonna set her back? And that's also the other interesting thing about Cardinal Zizka is at the end of the day, it also just kind of feels like no matter what happens with Troy, that's just for her. That's just like another
literally
on the world
shoulder
stage.
shrug. Yeah.
It's just like
go back.
Everyone trying to gotcha her, and then her just like, I thought that was another like extremely. I didn't think about it when we were first talking about it, but character-wise, with Joe's writing, like his ability to show that, like, she's clearly this just evil, terrible, awful person, and they all thought they had her, and she just like was able to like talk her way out of it, and just like confidence and the power that she has, she's like, whatever, like let's move on. Thought that was amazing.
I think
she's in some sense like one of the best antagonists in the book, if not the best antagonist in the book.
And the craziest part is that like she to the church still kind of just like isn't. She just was kind of like doing the job that she was supposed to do, and like I don't know. It's like she's definitely the antagonist for us as the reader and for the devils as characters, but really there's not going to be any punishment or anything like if you know what I mean, like she in the scope of things with the church and what they are set out to do, she was just doing what she was supposed to do. Which makes it interesting.
And I think it'll be really interesting since the Pope is so young, and that's the other like scary part, right? Like she's clearly extremely powerful, but she's surrounded by people like Cardinal Zizka that will just manipulate and guide her to do whatever. So I'm really interested to see like how that plays out with all the people surrounding the Pope.
Well, and I think she definitely delivers this dynamic too, and we see that with Balthazar kind of appealing, right, making his appeal of like no, like, and which I think made a lot of sense for his character too, which I really liked seeing that resolution. But just like no, I like really believe that she's the second coming of Christ, and there's sort of this element of like, but she's 10. Like it doesn't matter if she's like the savior incarnate. Like she's still got another decade at least before she can start like doing things on her own. So like what are you gonna do? Like somebody's got to keep, everything moving forward in that time period. And so again, like that sort of, you don't want to agree with it, but you can see that there's rationality into it, and just like that's what makes a great antagonist. Yeah.
And I think that's, to me, well, I want to say two things. One, I think Joe is just so good at writing, making you fall in love with characters. We can't forget the devils are bad people other than Sunny. You know what I mean? Like, they're not good people, but we grow to love them. They're flawed people, right? They're not bad people. They're flawed people. And I think that shows that, and they want to change. I think Balthazar is the perfect example. He wants to change so badly, but it's hard to change. And he reverts like that. I mean, he is back at step one when she denies him. I mean, he is just angry again and going to do whatever it takes to break out. And so, yeah, it's one of those things that it's just like, we can't forget. There's a lot of not great people that are characters. Alex, I'm super happy for where she landed, and I think she is a good person, but also she's a thief. And like, there's a lot of not good things.
Identity theft isn't a joke.
Yeah, she's exactly. She's a very flawed character, but
Yeah.
overall, though, I think. So yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I love that you're pointing that out. I think maybe you've kind of hinted to me that that's kind of what to expect from Joe's other worlds, is that that's probably why it's so enjoyable, is no one's probably good. This is just the world that we're in, and it's just a reflection of like, yeah, we're all just naturally flawed, and this isn't going to be a pretty like, here's the heroes, here's the villains, and like
Exactly.
really easy to know like what's right, what's wrong. Like I love the whole moral gray and like just going through it and seeing what happens.
Just because you set up a redemption arc doesn't mean it always needs to deliver. And I think that's something that people tend to forget, is like, it's not always going to work out perfectly, things in life. That's just life. And some, I would say overall, a lot of things did work out in the Devils for better than I thought it would overall. So, I think we got
for
some pretty
most
good
people,
resolutions.
except for one person.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think overall what's so cool about part 4 for me was that it is the part that just subverted expectations. He has set up these expectations throughout the whole book. And even something like Duke Michael, which I think, a lot of people at this point are probably thinking like, all right, like Duke Michael's probably in on it, and he is.
Yeah.
But in a very different way than I had ever thought. With the just when you think, so like Duke Michael's here, but then we got Eudoxia, we've got Zhishka, and then we got the fourth son or the fourth cousin. And so all of that branching makes it way different than I thought. So that was one expectation that got subverted. The other was the cousin. I loved the cousin. This is my favorite cousin. He's just happy and gay, and he just wants to have a nice, cordial marriage with Sunny. They're both going to benefit. They both have an agreement. Sorry, what was it, Sunny?
Yeah.
3-way. But no, I mean, I thought he was charming, a great character, and he got rocked. So that's another one. I think another one is like, I think most people are probably expecting someone to not make it on this journey, and someone does not make it. One, to me, it's not a matter of who it was, but a matter of how it was. I was not expecting it to happen that way. No one died to the villain here, or a villainous character here.
That's right.
So that's another thing that I just wasn't expecting. Alex getting the throne. I wasn't expecting it to end that way. Like, so he just kept setting all these expectations of like, and he just subverted all of them for me. And I think that's what made part 4 so good, that there are twists, and like, yeah, Duke Michael saying like, oh, there's always a good twist. And there was a good twist, like but you're not it, dude. It's what's surrounding you that made it so good. And yeah, I just thought that he landed this part masterfully. I think a lot of people aren't going to make it here. I would be very surprised if people who finished this book still ended on like a pretty negative, like it's a bad book. Because I think there's a lot of payoff. But a lot of people, I could see why a lot of people don't make it. Because part 2 is very cookie cutter. There's not stakes. We talked about with the cannon fodder, I call it, where it's just like a bunch of bad guys. I don't know who you are. You're just there for the good guys to kill. I didn't think for a second, I don't think anyone did, that anyone was going to not make it in part 1 or 2. Except for Eusebius, I guess. But
justice for Eusebius.
I know, justice for Eusebius.
Dude, we got to make you a shirt.
Yeah. It just like, oh man, yeah, that part is just, I mean, it's so on brand for Duke Michael as a character though, right? It's like, you're talking this guy up and then he dies and you literally don't even, you just leave. You don't even check if he's dead. You just peace out. It's like, you piece of shit. Like, he's the worst.
Can I ask a quick favor? Since it's been a while since I finished, can one of you talk a little bit more about the soul transfer, the Eudoxia scene? Just a quick little recap of it. I feel like I was a little fuzzy on it as well. I don't know if it was just a Jonesy thing, but I think that would be helpful and be fun for me to get a little more out of that too.
What's the lady's name? Lady Visera or something?
No, it's like starts with an S, like Severa.
It is Lady Severa. Yeah, Lady Severa.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm really bad with remembering names sometimes, and especially when there's lots of characters to remember. But let's call her Lady S, the lady in waiting. She's also the warden. Technically, is like the title they given to her. But she's effectively like if the Empress is like the president, right? That's like she's like chief of staff basically, right? So she runs everything. And so essentially, we learn a lot about her in particular, but from different angles, which is kind of interesting. From Alex, we learn that she is romantically attached to the uncle, right? So Duke Michael, and that they've been having an affair for some time. I say affair, not because they're cheating, any one of them are cheating on somebody, but that because they're keeping it secret and have been for some time. And then we learn from the husband who gets put into a bunch of ice that the handmaidens are a part of the coven, which then, of course, then that opens this question of like, well, what is she? Because she's the one who picked the handmaiden. So if they're all 4 of the coven, where does she come from? And then we learn from Brother Diaz, from an interaction that he has, I think, with one of their characters, that she was actually one of the first members of the coven. So Eudoxia basically takes on this first apprentice and then has the apprentice become her lady in waiting, her sort of chief of staff, her warden, running everything. And so she's the oldest of the coven other than Eudoxia, and she was also sort of the most eager to please Eudoxia. Well, when Eudoxia's sickness was becoming worse and worse and worse and worse, it's clear that she was going to die. Eudoxia basically gave up on the pursuit of preserving her own body and decided instead to try to figure out a way to instead transfer her soul to someone else. And so she developed a machine which she buried under the library to basically allow for the transferring of a soul. And Balthazar is the one who stumbles upon this machine and realizes its potential. And it has the ability to basically identify where the soul is in 2 individuals and then transfer those souls. So there's like an ensouling, a re-ensouling in a way. And so basically the lady in waiting, now it was also revealed by Eudoxia that she did not ask for permission or anything like that. She was just like, she basically tricked the lady in waiting into doing this, and then the souls were transferred. So the old lady Sephira was then transferred into Eudoxia's body, and Eudoxia was transferred into this lady's body, and then Eudoxia just let her die, basically, in her old body. And then disposed of it afterwards, and basically used that as a way to basically say, oh look, Eudoxia is dead, her experiment failed, she's dead, but actually it didn't fail, and actually Eudoxia wasn't dead, she'd killed off her own lady just in that body, and then began to lead the coven in her place as sort of the second command, which makes sense because she would have been the de facto authority, and pretended to be that individual, and started this coup to basically kill off her sons, and then ultimately kill off Duke Michael and sort of retake the throne.
Well, she doesn't want the throne. I think that was important. She basically says I don't want the throne. I'm okay with the way things are going because she wants to focus on her own thing. She wants to do her own thing. I think at some point Balthazar's like, so you did all this to get on the throne? She's like, hell no, I don't want to be back on the throne. That sucks.
Well, she does also say that the marriage was the quickest way back to the throne.
But without actually having to sit it, right?
Exactly. And so I think for her, it's all about, again, it's just plans on plans on plans on plans. I think for her, getting married to Duke Michael, and I said kill off Duke Michael, maybe that really isn't the plan. But I think for her, it's just, again, plans on plans. If Duke Michael is going to take the throne, she's not going to she's going to make sure that she has a way to keep a grip on things.
Yeah.
Because she still needs authority. She still needs powers. Like she still needs access.
Yeah.
She still needs those things to be able to fuel her passions. And she doesn't want to like lose a grip on that. But overall, like she's kind of just done lording over other people. She just wants to be free to pursue her own powers. But she doesn't ever tell Michael that she's Eudoxia. She just keeps pretending to be his lover, basically.
Which, dang, commit to the bit.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
bang.
Awesome, thank you.
Joe's really like taking the George R. R. Martin approach and trying to present you a different light. It's like, does it still count if it's a different body?
Yeah.
Like, Joe, stop it, Joe. We don't need to explore these questions.
Yeah. I'm really interested to see. I really like Eudoxia and Balthazar's like fight, if you will. It's not even a fight. It's more of like it's like chicken.
Verbal altercation of some sort.
Of like mutual respect. And like she invites him to work with her and he like politely declines.
Harry Potter ones, they're like but they don't do anything.
Yeah. So I found that really interesting. It's just like a respectful, we're gonna part ways, we're both gonna live. And that's that. You're real strong at magic and so are you. So let's just not kill each other and maybe we'll meet another time kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see like the implications of that decision for both of them and what that does.
Yeah. That's one of the big things left open. The other thing that I think we can come to expect in the next book are the elves. The elves are coming.
Yes.
That's going to be the big, like this was like the small thing of like the church getting things in order for the gigantic battle against these elves, seemingly. So this is kind of like small fry stuff, which I find really interesting.
They always say that.
Yeah. And are they like Sunny?
Millions
or are
of
they
Sunnies,
actually like terrible?
They're probably I would imagine they're terrible. And Sunny is the exception.
And, yeah, you're going to have like similar powers to Sunny, or is there like a multitude of different powers that people have? Like if they hold their breath, they all do something. Like I'm really interested to see like how that all comes together too.
And
my guess is that Sunny is not a full-blooded elf. That's my guess. I don't think she's full-blooded elf. I think she's something else.
I could see that.
Yeah, half elf.
Yeah, because like the members of the coven implied that elves cannot go invisible.
Write that down, Matt. Prediction for book 2.
Write that down.
Sorry, but I was talking over you, Matt. I apologize. What were you saying?
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine. I was just branching off. Yeah, what you're saying. I'm just interested to see how Alex will handle the elves coming because they're going to come near Troy. She's now in charge, where she doesn't really want to be. She's okay with it, but I don't think she's thinking ahead that many steps. And so she's finally going to settle in, and then it's just like, all right, what do we do, Alex? And she's going to be like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. And which makes it trying to take fun for Brother Diaz too, or Father Diaz rather at this point. Father,
he's got
Diaz.
the wheel.
He's got the.
Do we remember like? Do we know like where the elves are going to attack from? I'm trying to take a quick glance at
the northeast of the map.
I believe they're supposed to simultaneously represent like the people of the steppes as well as essentially the Arabs. So they're effectively So they're like the people of the steppes.
Okay, because I'm re-looking at the map, seeing where Troy is.
You see the giant elf.
If they're,
yeah. So because
there,
I was mostly trying to remember where Troy was. Thank you, Matt. I feel like that's also someone's very racist interpretation of what the elves look like.
I think that's very intentional. Yes.
Yeah, it's very much like who drew the person that drew this map was working for the church because they're
very prejudiced against the elves.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Sunny looks like that.
Alex loves that.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see it on here, but you can see Sunny. It's probably kind of hard to see. There's Ricard as the old vampire, but next to her, and there's Balthazar. Okay. But she kind of just looks like she looks like a, I don't know, like a 19-year-old, very small woman.
The map is clearly like a fear-mongering type of
100%. Which is hilarious. Terrifying. But I think we leave things in a lot of, and then speaking of that, I guess we get into the epilogue too of things that are going to happen. So with the devils, sorry, there was one more part that I wanted to at some point.
Yeah, me too. The big blob monster thing, and
Oh yeah, yeah. I was just gonna say, wasn't there a part where somebody talks about how even like the blades of grass have like everything has like a that is created by the savior, is loved by the savior, and it has a soul. And like we kind of get a moment with Sunny, like you do have a soul, and, like you do matter, kind of thing. I don't remember exactly where it was in there, but I thought we got it somewhere in there. I don't know if it was Jakob or if it was Brother Diaz at the
I
end.
think
but
I'll have
yeah,
to go.
confirming that elves have souls, and
Yeah.
um,
So I believe I'll have to go back and re-listen to it or reread it, but I'm pretty sure there's supposed to be this thread. I know it's sort of disparate, but it's actually more related to Baron Ricard than it actually is Sunny, which is kind of fascinating because we get this pretty epic reveal of Baron Ricard. But yeah, it is that, but it's Brother Diaz like kind of trying to work through like the theology of it in a way of trying to like because he's part three going into part four is very much like him trying to justify his place, like how he feels about this whole ragtag team. And so he's trying to like work through the whole theology. Maybe the werewolf loophole for sex is maybe not his best moment in terms of working through the theology, but he's like the one who's like trying to work through the blades of grass, which I thought was really really cool because I don't know if this was Joe's inspiration, but Brother Diaz is like a reverse Thomas Aquinas. Because Thomas Aquinas is like one of the things like he's I know, right? But Thomas Aquinas, I'm pretty sure is like pretty well known for being from a very wealthy family, who wanted to go into the monastery, who wanted to go into the priesthood, who like wanted to live a monastic librarian lifestyle and be like a professor, and then his dad did not want that for him at all, and so in order to basically keep him from that, like locked him up in a room with prostitutes, and then he spent the night with a hot poker saying, "Don't come anywhere near me." And after that, his dad like gave up, and just like you find whatever you want to do, you go do. And then he ended up becoming like the best philosopher ever, right? But he was one of the big like proponents of like everything has a soul. Okay. From a blade of grass to the tree, like everything has a soul. And there's just different categories of souls. And so it was kind of cool, like see Brother Diaz go through that because Diaz is like the opposite, right? It's like he
didn't want it.
He didn't keep them away with a hot poker. It was a different kind of poker.
Different poker.
And then his dad was like, "No, you're going into the monastery." And so I thought that was really neat, and he goes through that. But then we get this like great reveal of Baron Ricard, who when Balthazar like finally accuses him on the boat in part four, right? Of like you encouraged me to break the binding because you wanted to break it for yourself, and he's like, no, I thought it was hilarious. Like you were gonna fail. He's like, here's the thing: is like it traps the soul, and I'm a vampire. I don't have a soul.
Yep. Oh, it's just that's what it is.
Yeah, and that's kind of a crazy moment. It's like, wait, actually, like he might be right. Like we get this whole theology of like, no, everything is a soul, except maybe there are certain categories of people that like maybe they don't, because like that's kind of what they are. I mean, vampires are like believed to not have a soul, and like that might be a thing in this world, which could be like really fascinating.
Yeah, and that kind of I think that was it, maybe, or maybe it was just combined of like, okay, well if the binding, because then we find out like binding doesn't work on Ricard, never has, doesn't matter. Nope. But it does work on Sunny, and therefore,
that was another important part that I remember.
Yeah,
that was
if
brought
what
up
he's
too.
saying is true, then that does confirm that Sunny does have a soul. Now, I don't think she gets that revelation yet.
No,
what we do as the reader. I like that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Well, it could be cool, like that. Maybe Baron Ricard realizes this because of the fact that the binding has literally never worked on him, and he knows it doesn't work on him. And he always seems like rather attached to the sorcerer / magician. So it's kind of a neat idea that like he's the only one who knows this, and he's just never told anybody. And
he has So everybody kind of gets a chance to shine in this part as far as their like powers, really. You're laughing. Is there one you're thinking of that you want to talk about?
Baron Ricard's is just the greatest ever.
Yeah, we get the dumplings again,
and
it works so just as good the third time. Yeah, because I think it's so funny because like at first, the very first time you hear the dumplings thing, you're like, oh, it's the monotony that's what's hooking them, like, and it is, but like he just tells the same story every time and goes into more and more detail. Instead of talking about anything else, he's just like, let me talk about dumplings again. Which is great. And yeah, I mean he gets a couple of the what are they called? They're not witches, but the Covenant people.
Members of the Coven.
Members of the Coven.
I mean, they're sorcerers.
He makes them like kill each other, and they're like moaning in ecstasy as they like burn to death, and it's just like, oh shit, yeah, he's strong, he's scary. So I thought that was cool. So that's his moment, really.
I just love the fact that you were thinking about like him going Super Saiyan with the blood, because like that's essentially what that moment is. Like you can almost picture of like his power level is like over 9,000 of him just like and like there's like no moment in this book that has happened yet where we would think that Baron Ricard is like upset, because like even with the bishop, like he felt very indifferent. He was just like whatever, like right. But like in this scene, he seems furious. I mean, if there was any scene for him to go on a rampage and just like rip people apart, like it would be this scene. And so he just lands in there, like all of his hair, he's super young and vibrant and all this stuff, right? And he's just like hair back. He's just like, let me tell you about Poland.
Yeah. It was autumn.
And like the lead up to it, that was great. He's like, you're practitioners of dark magic, so I assume you're okay with peering into the darkness. Let me tell you about the eastern part of Poland, where my wife had her states. Just like going into the darkness is these dumplings.
Yeah, and I think isn't Alex still getting hooked in by it as well?
Yeah. She's like, please choose me next. Like,
yeah.
Set me on fire. And then when he does it, she like starts crying.
Yeah, that part's great. Obviously, Jakob has his big. He's got the double standoff because at first he loses to Duke Michael, and then I mean, man, did he Joe drew out that climb up those stairs. Yeah. I thought he was never gonna make it. I mean, he was climbing those stairs for an eternity. And man, I talk about like an old man feeling every step, and like I felt it, like like brutal, but he makes it, and then he's obviously ultimately the one that takes Duke Michael off of the building and smacks him. They go into the ocean, right?
They go into the ocean, which by the way, from that distance,
it's a splatter anyways.
Yeah, I mean, like you are at 30 feet plus, it is like hitting concrete.
Yeah, and there are a lot more than that.
There are a lot more than that. So it has the nice benefit of putting out the fire.
Yeah,
but that's not what's going to kill you when you hit the ocean.
Yeah.
It's not the fire.
Yeah. And then Baptiste has her arguably biggest moment of the book, which, I'm surprised. I thought was really surprising, personally. I didn't see it coming, and it had been set up for us so much of like, Viga is not controllable. And she does not care who she's going to go after. Well, actually, let's talk about this in a second. Josh, tell us about, because before we get to this, we have our blob, or whatever the hell the black goop is.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to explain it very well. It's been a while.
I want the exact science behind it.
Exact science. Your picture was a good visual for that from the book.
This is a really cool. It might be a little hard to see with the lighting.
It's like a mashup of, was it like a mashup of different corpses and stuff? I can't quite remember.
Well, we should clarify on that image right there, because it is a little bit mangled, but on that image that you were just showing there, Matt, if you pull up one more time. So you want to pay attention to the side that's closest to the people, because on the other side, it looks pretty grotesque and a little bit undecipherable. That's because that side, that other page, that's Viga as a werewolf, like bursting out.
Yeah, you can see her.
But you can see like a crow's head in there. You can see like mandibles and things like that. But yeah.
Well, it kind of has like two forms, because at first it shows up as like big, contorted like beast, and then Viga. I can't remember who defeats the first thing, but they do. They kill it. And then from that is birthed this like giant black goop thing that was inside all along. It's almost like a Hydra, like you cut off a head and 2 more spawn, and that's what ends up eating Vega. And we think Vega's gone. And then the book ended. No, she bursts out like in that scene, defeats the whatever the hell it is, and then immediately starts prowling and going after Baptiste and Brother Diaz, who are
Now, was this like the final boss of like Eudoxia's creations as well? I can't remember if that's what
Yeah, it was like
we're
locked.
we're like
Yeah,
to understand from it.
because it was like locked in her like experiment area,
Okay.
and they unlocked it there at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's essentially her Vega in a way, like to be chained up and locked up until like absolutely needed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and then Baptiste ends up sacrificing herself to save Brother Diaz, which I really liked. I thought it was great. And it just, I don't know. It is like to me, it is the biggest like, oh shit, like it got real fast. You know, because it still feels like actiony and fun up to this point, and then it's just like, oh, we lost one, and we lost one to ourselves. Like, it's just brutal. They could have got out of it unscathed, not unscathed, but you know what I mean. Like they could have just got out. But yeah,
especially because they made the choice to go back and help Alex, right? So like, that's the other thing that's kind of like devastating is this group, all morally like corrupt as it is, but they still like, all right, we're feeling this yearning to go back and help Alex and try to do something good, right? And then that happens.
Yeah, and Vega's like her response to it is just perfect. I mean, perfect. She hates herself. Hates herself.
Yeah, that was one of the most brutal things I think I've ever read. Was like her like scraping her tongue just to get the taste of Baptiste.
Like vomiting up Baptiste. Yeah,
absolutely heart-wrenching.
Yeah, and you can't help but feel bad for, for Vega. I think she just hates herself in that moment.
Yeah,
which she all her life she's been told that she's this monster, and all she wants to do is beat that, and she thinks that she has, and then you kill your friend.
That poor choice of words.
Overcome it.
She wants to do that. Oh no, not that either.
But what I think is, good.
No,
I think it is really great that it's like is their choice to go back, like, and even though they're like fighting the papal binding to do so in a small way, I think it's not as overwhelming as, let's say, when Balthazar is trying to break the bindings. But I think it's like really significant that is their choice. I love that there's a I'm pretty sure there was a language twist with Baptiste, because she always says like I should have quit after, but then when it's clear that Vega Wolf isn't responding, she says I should have quit before.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really neat, because at that point we break to go back to Yakub or Alex, I can't remember which one, or maybe Balthazar, but we break from there. I think it is to go back to Balthazar, but we break from there, so it like kind of helps us to help like give us time to process, like, oh yeah, she's most likely dead. I also think that like this will kind of, I'll talk more on this later, because I definitely want to hear more from you guys about this particular scene, but I also think that it's really important, I would say, for the resolution of this book, that even though these characters are like bad, that Joe has laid out a way in which each character is redeemable or traumatized, probably both. But like Vega, it's really interesting because we kind of think that she carries the baggage of having like killed her friends, but there was a really important reveal in her backstory with the nuns that she had burned and killed. Because it says that they'd locked them in, throw their torches, but she was made to throw her torch. And then the crew that she killed after becoming the wolf was the same crew that did that.
Yeah, the crew she was working with were not good people.
No, and so it very much lays it out to be like, well, she was kind of a terror, right? She burned these people, killed these people, like slaughtered these people, but that very much was like not her initiative. It wasn't her command. That like, but she was just a part, like she was a part of that crew. Doesn't mean that she's like innocent of those crimes, but again, it's kind of meant to lay out that like she was put into position and pushed to a position of like committing these atrocities. And so she carries trauma from that. And I think that this like death with Baptiste is significantly more impactful on her. Obviously, we can see that than what had happened with her previous crew, because at the end of like her previous crew, she recognized like they're all murderers. Like they are the murderers that traumatized her, and then after traumatizing her, abandoned her when because of their like crusades, she became afflicted by the wolf, right? Whereas like Baptiste has like always been a member of her crew and is like the closest thing to family that she will ever have, right?
Yep.
Who has like actively like worked with her, accepted her, right, prodded her, but like they have an understanding. And so I just think that delivery was just superb.
Yeah. I something that Joe does a lot, and it's not really a spoiler for the other books or anything. It's just like that is a recurring theme of like it's hard to change. Change is hard. It's not, you can't just say I'm going to do this and then you do it and everything's great. And yeah, I think that's that redeemable quality. Do most of these characters end up where they started? Technically, yeah. I mean, like, right, they're still the devils. Balthazar is back to being angry again, so he's not really changed too much. Jakob is going to keep on keeping on doing what he's doing. Sunny is going to keep on doing what she's doing. I mean, everyone's in the same spot other than Alex and Brother Diaz. Really, those are the ones that really have, like, a not full arc. But, like, to me, that is what a character arc is. I still feel like they are changed as people and as characters, even though they're back to where they maybe would have started. Sunny still believes that she's worthless, that she can't stay with who she loves. She's abandoned. She doesn't feel like she is worthy of any of that because she doesn't think she has a soul, because that's what she's been told her whole life. And that is true leaving the book, I think. Balthazar, who wants nothing but to better himself and escape his shackles, is back to that at the end because of Žižka. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think I love that. To me, that is a feature because it's handled so well. But a lot of people will say, "What's the point? What's the point of this? It's stupid because they're just the same character the whole time." I'm like, yeah, but like I like seeing someone try to overcome and try and make change. And in this one, we got some of it. I think Brother Diaz really does feel like a different character at the end of this book than he did in the beginning, and I think Alex does too. Maybe not as great of an improvement, but I could see that she's on the right track and so on and so forth. But yeah, what do you guys think of that overall? Because that is a very common critique of Joe's work. I would say this is the least of it. In his other books, it can be more like, wow, we really kind of did end up where we were, but things have changed. There's more nuance to just like, point A is the exact same as point B. It's really not, but it can kind of feel like that sometimes.
What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I think it's, I don't know. I guess my overall thought is it makes me think of Game of Thrones. And once I finally kind of opened up myself to watching the show, I've only read the first book. But Joe, I don't know if people are going to get mad. I'm not trying to compare him, but it just feels like mindset-wise, that's kind of where it's going to land with Joe. Is I'm going to get like real raw, like humans are flawed.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's some. I think it just depends on your mood, right? Like if I want something really hopeful, beautiful, a little bit more clear cut, like good, evil, like Lord of the Rings, Tolkien, like that's what I want. But I don't think that means I can't enjoy Game of Thrones or Joe Abercrombie and his world. And so I think it's a really cool like step into that type of mindset. And so I really enjoyed it. And I'm excited to see where the Devils go. And I'm excited to dive into his other worlds and kind of see how those individuals are and what we learn on their journey too.
Yeah. I like that there can still be hope though.
Yeah.
I think that I think that's what's important. I think that's the defining factor. It's like, even though it can feel hopeless, I think there are still things that have been shown to us, like that we get that Sunny reveal that she does in fact have a soul and she does matter. We as the reader know that, but we can know, now we know it for fact, really, for a fact. And I'm hopeful that she's going to get to, I feel like she's going to get to learn that, and that's going to be big for her. And like, I think there is some hope. And that's but it's different, right? There isn't that type of like, oh, everything is, the good will overcome bad, and that's how we're going to, everything's leading up to the good overcoming the bad. We did it, the end. And there's certainly a place for stories like that. Like you said, Tolkien. I mean, I think that is Tolkien. You know what you're getting into with the Lord of the Rings. It's good overcoming evil. But yeah, this just feels more human. But it's not completely hopeless, and I think that's what's important. Where you landing, Ian?
Yeah, so, and this might be my hot take of the episode, so to speak, but I think that when you take a story like this, like the way you kind of laid it out, with you started in one place, we kind of came back to the same place after having this journey. I think that if you're an author and you're taking that approach to your fantasy, I think, obviously there's a lot of elements like character building, world building, execution, but I think you're already setting yourself up to be like a cut above virtually every other fantasy series, like just about every fantasy on the shelf. No, obviously not every, because there's a lot of good fantasy that do that. One of my favorite things about Malazan, for example, is we do see a lot of these like very human like elements. But yeah, I think you're just like a cut above fantasy. I think that I could see a lot of fantasy readers not liking it, because I think there is a trend to treat fantasy like an escape. I am very much against that kind of reading, in the sense that like I do not pick up books because I think it's a good escape. And if somebody were to pitch it to me as like, oh, this is just a great fantasy trip, I'd be like, then I'm probably not going to read it. Like I'm not looking for that, right? Like I don't want a fantasy trip. I don't want an escape. Like I don't need that. I don't want that. That's not what I'm interested in. What I want is a good story. Like I want you to tell me a good tale. And I think, frankly, like for me, it's a little bit more base. It's just like for basically all of human existence, except for like the last 100 years, like we've had a way we tell stories, and we tell stories about heroes and sagas and tales and great journeys and mischief. And we tell stories about things being human and real. And like the idea of like them ending up back behind bars, right where they started, is like super real for their world. And it's the same idea as like what we call like the tomato stand philosophy of like, if you're going to teach somebody something, you can't expect to be the place they stop. Sometimes you just need to be the sign along the way. And it's the tomato stand idea of like, if you see hey, we're selling tomatoes on the side of the road, you probably ignore it. But then if you see 20 of those signs, eventually you're like, are these tomatoes just really good or something? Like, why is everybody advertising tomatoes? Like, I gotta pull
There's always
over
money in
this-
the tomato stand.
I need to know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I need to know, like, what the hell is going on with these tomatoes? And like that is just like, that's human existence, like in a nutshell. It's like nutshells, But it really is. And so I like a good story, a story that's trying to be a real story. And so I think Joe delivered that in spades. Again, obviously I have my gripes and things like that, but I think that's a phenomenal way to tell a story, in a fantasy story. And so I love that that's what Joe is going for. So
yeah.
It's also so much more thought-provoking, other than just they started behind bars and they're behind bars again. It's like there's so much that happened in between there for Balthazar.
Yep.
Even though he's back in the same mindset, like I feel like
It's literally an
he's
arc.
really not. He's not in the same mindset though. Like it might be the same like overall idea and goal that he has, but it's a completely different mindset to me now. Like he's gone on this journey, and it's like I don't think there's anything that's going to pull him back to that other side ever again. And he's probably going to cross some line. We're going to see some crazy lines that he's willing to cross now. Like he summoned a demon. What else is he going to do? Like it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the, not to argue with whoever's out there saying it, but I just, it's hard for me to listen to people say that, because it's like, yeah, it is a character arc. An arc isn't flat. They change. And even if exactly. And it's like, nope, they're exactly the same. They're the exact same character. It's like, they're not. And And like, yeah, I mean, I just can't imagine this book with like at the end they're all free, like hugging and like, yay! And the Pope released us all because we did our jobs. Like, no, they tell us in the beginning, part of the binding is like, this is just one job. You're just escorting someone, and then you're coming back because you've been arrested and you work for us now. So, yeah, I don't know. It's like he told us right up front exactly how it was going to end.
Which is another really like interesting like the religious aspect of it. Like it's the church that they've arrested, they're paying for their crimes. It's like, oh yeah, but like shouldn't there be this mentality of like forgiveness, or you're paying for your, and it's like I think it's another really fascinating thing to be like, nope, you guys are back here and you're stuck with us. Like there's no redemption, because isn't that something that Jishka says to Balthazar essentially, like there's no redemption for you.
Yeah,
like,
you're beyond it. You're beyond forgiveness, basically.
Which is also like another crazy thing. Like they're supposed to be like a representative, but like they're also just like concluding your own like destiny and judgment. Like I love all those little like moments that happen.
It's definitely like a magnifying glass on the church of like how churches can abuse their power and let it bleed into like politics and things that it shouldn't. And yeah, I mean, I think that's what Joe is doing with this, is showing us like the church ain't always good. It's sometimes they have their own motives, and like it's not just bringing people to your religion. It's, you know, putting yourselves in a place of power to maybe sometimes not do great things. And so I think overall, I mean, we can talk about overall thoughts here. We can talk about the epilogue as well, and then if there's anything else we want to chat about. But like overall, I think like if you were to ask me, did Joe succeed at what he set out to do, I would say yes. Memorable characters that I will remember. It's a decent setup. I would say just decent setup for like a series with a series within this world. I'm intrigued enough to know, like, when I think about what's going to happen and the threads we left open, I'm very curious, specifically Eudoxia and the elves. Like, what is going to happen? What's the next step? And then obviously with our devils as well. And then Joe has said, like, yeah, well, at least Bree and I went and saw him talk in Austin, and he was chatting about it. And I think people asked him, like, well, what are your plans for the series? Like, so on and so forth. And he said, like, my plan is I'm going to write more books in the Devils, but it's not a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of thing. It's like you could walk into the bookstore and pick up book 3, and you would be just fine reading it. Obviously, it's going to, like a history book, if I flip to chapter 25 in my history book, that takes place after chapter 1. I mean, probably, depending on the history book, I guess. I'd like to think so. But so same thing, right? These events of this book will have happened in book 2, and they might reference it and stuff like that. But like, you're not gonna open and be like, I have literally no idea what's going on. Okay. He also said, like, the remaining devils, not all of them are going to be in the next book. Maybe we're going to get some new ones. Some of them are going to sit out some missions, and so on and so forth, which really has me intrigued for what that's going to look like. And then maybe we can segue that into the epilogue, and what he kind of gives us there, a little taste. Anyone?
Yeah. So then there was just kind of one last thing, which I think does kind of segue into the epilogue that I wanted to bring up, which was just one of the overall premises of that the book establishes at the end. And it's really established by Cardinal Zizka in her conversation with Jakob about the devils, because we get this sort of great conversation between them two. And I thought that was a really interesting way for him to approach this, because I think you could always make this, like, you could start like level 1 and say, bad people can do good things. And it's like, okay, yeah, it's kind of interesting, like something we can understand about human nature. And it's like part number 2, it's like bad people can be redeemed, right? And it's just like, okay, that's also really, really cool too. But then we kind of get to this point where I think that he is kind of adding a novel perspective on this, which I thought was really cool, which was that sometimes people that are extremely capable but also extremely traumatized are far more dangerous than just those that are evil. Like, essentially, Zizka's position, and the position that's being presented to you, is that every single one of the devils is of a better quality, like more redeemable quality, than Duke Michael, but all of them are significantly more dangerous, even though Duke Michael could have literally like led to the downfall of an entire empire and the deaths of like all of those people. And even him himself is like he needs to put Yakob's death count into like the 10,000s before it feels like Jakob is worse than Duke Michael. So like even Duke Michael's like, yeah, if thousands of people die, that's not a big deal. But it's just like each of them are more dangerous because we want to feel for them because they're because the trauma, because like the mitigating factors, but their competence mixed with the fact that they're locked into that trauma actually means that they're like potentially far more dangerous than those that are just ambitious and evil. And I thought that was a really like a kind of interesting idea to explore, especially like in the context of this story. So I thought that was really neat that Joe took that route.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Very cool. So then, yeah, let's just talk about where it leaves off, which is just we cut to an epilogue and some ladies. I mean, it's basically a repeat. It's a mirror of the first scene in the book with Brother Diaz in the wagon going to the Holy City. Except for this time, it's not. Oh, sorry, real quick. Brother Diaz, basically, I mean, like, he doesn't abandon the church. I mean, he becomes Father Diaz, but, like, he abandons some of that, like, he gets rid of his vial of, his, like, dependency or, like, codependency, if you will, of, like, that using the church as, like, a crutch, which I think he has. It's just, like, every time something bad happened, he would just pray. And I think he's kind of overcome that, which I did like. That was the resolution of the vial of blood of him moving away from that, which I thought was good. But anyways, yeah, so some lady on her way in the same way to the Holy City, except for this time the wagon picks up somebody else, a young man. And I think we are just to assume that one or both of these people, they kind of have a conversation about what they're doing, where they're going. They're going to meet to the Holy City, basically the same way Brother Diaz was. They've been called upon to fill a role that we as the readers probably know are either one of them's going to take Brother Diaz's place and one of them's going to take Baptiste's place, or maybe they're both going to co-run the Devils, or we don't exactly know who or what position they're going to be in, but I think that's what we are led to believe. Which I find fun. I would love personally to see it be a co-run, a 20-year-old and like a 55-year-old, like heavily in the church, try and co-run the Devils. I think would be a nightmare in the best way, personally. But do we want to? Do either of you have any other like predictions as to what might happen? Just going forward in general with the series, and no worries if not.
Yeah, so well, I was going to also mention too, like the first chapter was St. Elfric's Day, Elfric's Day, and then the last chapter is St. Tabitha's Day. So it like literally is like bookends, which is pretty fun. And then at least in terms of like the Holy City, right? Because it's going to be like packed, and there'll be They even mentioned the prostitutes and everything.
Yeah, I think they say literally every day of the week is some saint's day. So literally every day is like that. They just party all day, every day, which is hilarious in the name of a saint.
Yeah. And so, so my very basic prediction is like that Mother, gosh, I had it, was it Beckert, Mother Beckert, and then it's Caruso, I think it was like
Caruso.
his name. Caruso. So my basic one was like she'll run it and he'll basically be the replacement for Baptiste. But also I kind of feel like maybe we don't really need a replacement for Baptiste, that really he'll like perform some other role. What I think would be really fascinating is if he's like an exorcist. That's, I think, would be really fascinating. So he's like, he can almost be like an antithesis. He can say that role of being like an antithesis to Balthasar, but like more in a professional capacity.
I didn't even think about like what would it be a good, like what's another like monster trope we haven't seen that like could be. That is fun to think about. Yeah,
like my thought was like Constantine from like DC, but like take that, but take it up a few notches, right? Like I think that could be a really cool trope to play around with. What I'm really interested to see is I think we have to come back to Troy. I think we have to come back to the invasion of the elves, but I don't know that we necessarily have to come back to it in the next book.
No, yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. So, and I also kind of feel like we don't see Alex and Brother Diaz again until we come back to Troy. But I wonder if that's like the third book, we do something else, and then we'll come back to that.
Yeah, I was thinking there's got to be some sort of separation, right? Because how do we go with the Devils on another journey and get to Alex and Brother Diaz? Yeah, I feel like there's got to be something else that happens before those two groups collide again.
Yeah, I could see him maybe sending the Devils to intercept on the way down, like up in the north. There
Yeah.
is a part of me that I think would be very on brand for Alex's journey to have no rest and just be like, "You're here, you did it, time to rest." Nope, here comes the invasion. What are you gonna do? Like, you have not had time to learn how to be a ruler, and yet you
Yeah.
rule all these people. What are you gonna do? You need to save them. To me, that's a really interesting conflict. So part of me wants to see that, but I wouldn't mind if we had a book away from her, which does lead me to a question, and maybe we could leave this to like kind of wrap up, or just if you guys have any like questions, we can do fast answers to like this one. Favorite character of the whole book for the whole journey? Who's your favorite? Josh, we'll start with you. Or do you need a second?
Probably Sunny.
Okay, Sonny.
Sunny was just such a good character.
Mhm.
But I feel like Brother Diaz was just someone that really grew on me. Um, yeah, I'd say those two.
His lawyer scene is like one of the best scenes in the whole book.
Yeah,
He just lawyers.
yeah,
It's so good.
yeah. Also, little fun things like he's writing letters to his mom. The beginning of the book and him is going to be so memorable to me. Just you're with this religious man, and his first line is "God damn it" or
Yeah.
whatever it is. Like,
Yeah.
just I feel like Joe just immediately let me know like who this character is, what this world is, like what I'm jumping into, and then yeah, Sunny from people having no idea that she's just going around and what was it, tying shoelaces or throwing trash or anything to like just
Folding
good
clothes.
deeds. But also just like how is she this good of a person when she's been treated so terribly, right? And her people are looked at as so terrible, and then yeah, there was just lots of great moments of her. And then I think I just really enjoyed Balthazar as well. So those are probably my top three.
All right, Ian.
Yeah, I think Brother Diaz is my favorite character, just from beginning to end. I enjoyed reading. I enjoyed every single scene that we had with him. I loved his transformation. I think he is the example of a character that changes.
Yeah.
He's the only one who's not
Yeah.
stuck at the end of this. He is exactly where he chooses to be, and exactly where he feels like he should be. And I also think like the pastoral scene with him and Jakob of Thorn is like one of the greatest like moments in the book as far as like a payoff goes as well. The fact that he can get to that point where he can provide pastoral care to this person who's been around for centuries, and is just like a really really cool scene. I think Jakob of Thorn is the one who I admire the most. I think he changes the least, but I think that's also like to his character. But I admire him the most as a character, and I think I can understand him the best. And then there's just definitely several things about Balthazar that just sort of touch my computer science heart.
Yeah. Yeah, but now we're talking about like I do really I think we would all agree probably that Alex is bottom tier. Maybe not the bottom, but close, if not the. But now that I finished the book, I think Brother Diaz is the main character, not Alex.
Mhm.
I think it's
Yep.
Brother Diaz's journey. He just has to have a purpose, and that purpose is Alex. Though I do think Alex got fleshed out more by the end, in a good way. But I really do feel like that Brother Diaz, if I had to say who is the main character, it's Brother Diaz.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting to me is I feel like Brother Diaz has made a lot of choices, whereas I don't really feel Alex has, right? Duke Michael shows up and it's either die or go with him. And I feel like even though she's learned and grows a little bit, it's still kind of die or go there.
Yep.
So I feel like for her to be more interesting for me going forward, I want to see where she's really like making some decisions as a leader instead of just
Yep.
I don't know. It could be that she surrounds herself with everyone that just makes those decisions for her, but I feel like for me to be more interested in her, it's got to be that.
Yeah, I think like the next time we see her, if like where she ends book one is her starting place in the next book, and yeah, she no longer has that requirement of like, I think she has overcome that just survival is the base need. Because if that were the case, she could just abandon the throne, and I don't think she will. So I think she has grown some. But yeah, I agree. I think that for the journey that she is just like surviving, and which makes sense for her character, right? She's a street urchin.
Yeah.
That's the way she's grown, and by surviving, so that's what she does. But I do think I would like to. I think we will see her start to make those decisions, and I think that will also make her more interesting. But yeah, favorite character for me, man, it's fun. We've kind of said almost every devil. Because I think it's Viga. I love Viga. Thirsty. It's so funny. Bree and I will quote that. She's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Thirsty." But yeah, I think the end of her, man, as far as like emotional impact, I think the scene with Jakob and Diaz talking, and then I think her aftermath is just heartbreaking for me. But I thought she was just a fun character. I mean, I don't think she was the deepest character or anything, but man, every time she was on the page, I was happy that she was there. But then, yeah, probably Brother Diaz had to be top 3, and probably Jakob. But I love Sunny. It feels wrong excluding Sunny. I'm just gonna combo Sunny and Jakob because they were like kind of a tag team.
Yeah,
So
I had to throw Sunny, but Jakob was right up there with me me too.
They're great. So yeah, the fact that it's just for me, it's very hard to choose, and I think that just shows that. And they're wildly different characters. And Rickard, I love Rickard. I would have probably loved him more if we got more of him, but like I really like him as a character. Like he's just a great character. And they're all good. Other than I think we probably would agree as well. Baptiste, the other two of the bottom two. Yeah, kind of like the joke that no matter what was going on, she was like, "Oh yeah, I used to do that." It's like I did find that funny, but I didn't feel attached to her at all. To me, the emotional impact of her dying was Viga. Like that, and the rest of the crew.
Yeah.
Like I feel bad for the rest of the crew, but really, it's about Viga having to live with that. What she did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would say it's a common for me. It's a combination of Viga and Balthazar because you see that attachment from Balthazar, and like in many ways, I think Baptiste is his hook to the devils.
Yeah.
Like she brought out like the best in him, and so you get that combination of like him, like his connection to the devils, like being severed. And then Viga's just like entire like worldview crumpling. Just you essentially carved out the heart of the devils in a way.
Yeah, I forgot they kind of had like a will they won't they kind of thing going on, which I liked.
They were edging for a bit.
Yeah. I did. There's one other moment I can't remember exactly what happens, but during Balthazar's whole journey, when he very near the end, someone calls him like, they're like, "Oh, are you a sorcerer?" And he's like, "No." It's just like, oh, dude, like, or sorry, what does he always want to be called?
He wants to be called a magician.
A magician,
yeah.
They call him a magician, and they're like, you're a magician, right? He's like, no, whatever you want. Like, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. It's just like, all right, Balthazar, like, I like that. Come on, man. Like, he went from like correcting in his head to like basically like orgasming when someone called him a magician. Like he would have daydreams of Baptiste being like, you're the best magician. And he's like, oh yeah. To like, you know what? Like it's a title I don't really care, which was fun. But any other thoughts or moments or questions or anythings? Will you either of you you're both of your first Joe Abercrombie book? Will you be reading more Joe?
Yeah, definitely. For sure. I mean, I do want to listen to or read listen to or read the First Law. I'm not sure quite in what order that's going to happen because I do want to get through the Leviathan Wake books, and then I do also want to get through Dungeon Crawler Carl. Mm-hmm. But we're probably gonna have a little bit of a lull here now that we're kind of we got Malazan locked, and I'm gonna be done with my second read of the Mercy Alpha. And so I think that's going to open up some space where I'd really love to kind of dive more into like the First Law and to read more from Joe. I do really appreciate his character development. And I think that's, frankly, for me, just something that's really needed in that space. And so the more I can get of it, the better, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you guys are both in for a treat. I think like this is a perfect way for him to earn your trust, like enough, right? If this is the entry level Joe, because I do think First Law has a bit of a learning curve. The first book, you'll hear a lot of people say there's literally no plot, which there's a little bit more than literally no, but there's not a lot. So this is a perfect introduction to teach you, like, just trust me, like, we're going to get somewhere. But it's really about the characters, and, like, the First Law characters are so good. They're so good. So I'm excited for you guys to do that. And I might do a bit of a reread when you guys get there, because I would, they're great. So I'd like to experience it again and hear you guys' thoughts. But, yeah, very cool. Well, thanks for joining us, Josh. Hopefully you'll join us again.
Thanks,
for another
gentlemen.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, you just reemphasized for me, like, despite the ratings, like, just talking about the book and the memorable parts, like, it has me very excited for whatever future Devil books come out, and to see what else happens with these characters or new characters, just the world in general. So I appreciate all the insight and the fun.
Yeah, it's been super fun. Yeah, disgusting, I feel like, really just heightens a book for me. Like I feel like I could see myself walking away from this discussion and be like, you know what, it's a 4-star. But like, no, it's not. Like, this is I love talking about it, but it's just fun to talk about things, media specifically, experiencing it together and hearing thoughts. It just really does heighten the experience. So yeah, it's been super fun, and hopefully there will be more down the line. You're gonna give a full like 10-hour Dark Tower journey experience, right?
Oof. Wow.
Just you?
I'll probably give you a disappointing 10-minute recap, and you'll be like, but what about this? And I'll be like, oh shit, I forgot about that, or I didn't understand it.
Oh man, I feel like Dark Tower is like so worthy of a reread, to where, because really my like first complete journey to the tower, I had already read the first 6 books and then part of book 7, and I just started again. So the second read of a lot of those books was significantly better, but it's I can't wait to hear what you think of the ending. I can't wait. It's a very love-hate ending, so I cannot wait.
I'm excited. I feel like no matter the ending, I know I had a little bit of a lull there, but I know when I first started the book, like, I feel like the start of that book, like, that experience alone has just reminded me how worth it's been to be on the Dark Tower journey. So whatever happens in the end, it's been well worth it for me.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I've seen people say, like, I didn't like the ending. The whole series is garbage, and it's not worth your time. I'm like, really?
I feel like the other thing, too, I know I have not read nearly as much Stephen King as you have, nowhere close, but I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of, like, who he is, his style, and I feel like book 7 feels to me like the quintessential, like, this is Stephen King. Like, it just feels like the all be all of Stephen King,
It's
and
his
I'm
magnum
loving
opus.
his style, the weirdness, the creepiness at times, the heartache, just everything about it has just been great so far.
Yeah. Ian, what do you think about the Dark Tower?
I've got them on Audible. So if you're going back for a reread, you gotta tell me, because then that'd be the perfect reason to just start going through it.
I mean, ideally it'd be. I think Malazan and this were both really fun because we all get to experience it for the very first time, and I think that there's just a lot of fun in that, especially because, like, Malazan, there's a lot that I desperately need the discussion to be like, I'm pretty sure I got this. Did I? And it's like, all right, good. Or like, oh, we interpreted that very differently. Like, that's fun. Where it's just fun to not have to hold back. Where like Dark Tower, if you're like, I wonder if this is this, and I'm just like, I can't say. For like 7 books, it wouldn't be quite as fun. So, but I would do a reread just to, I mean, I love it. So
I feel like so far in my reading journey, there's never been a truer statement from someone saying, just finish book 1 if you're feeling about it. And once you get to book 2, like,
it really is.
The transformation was crazy, to where I was just like, I gave up the first time I read Dark Tower years ago because I had no idea what the hell was going on. And then, yeah, did book one. You helped me understand it. I did the podcast, which made it much more enjoyable. And I'll never forget, it was when I had finished one of the weekend visits with you at your place. I started book two on the way home,
The
and
drive
like
home,
that
yeah.
3.5 hour drive for me felt like
Coke riddled.
nothing. It was some of the most like I remember I'm like gripping listening, like it was some of the most enjoyable like book listening I've ever done in book two.
Yeah.
So Dark Tower, for someone to just say like, oh, they wasted their time, like, come on, like,
Yeah, it's at that point I'm just like, all right, well, I'll just never take one of your opinions because like I could totally get I hated the ending, but
yeah,
like you can't say that retroactively makes if you love a book can still be good on its own with the ending being not
yeah,
good. Like that can
yeah.
two things can coexist.
Yeah, I feel like even everyone that's on camp, like the last season of Game of Thrones, like I get it. It's not the ending that everyone deserved, but I don't think it nullifies everything else that we were given, and that's going to be my opinion, even if I don't like
Yeah,
the ending. Like,
yeah. I mean, like for some, I've only watched season one, and read the first book, but
yeah,
like I know that the first couple seasons are like very well made TV. And for someone to say it ended horribly, now season one is objectively a bad season of television, I'm just like, how? I just that doesn't make any sense. Because then if it ended well, you would have said no, it's objectively a good season of TV. I'm like, I don't know. It's just hard for me to trust an
yeah.
opinion like that. But it's a good thing no one's
Thanks for
watching.
listeing to our
Yeah.
ramblings, everyone,
It's a
of
good
a
thing
couple other things outside of the Devils.
And that's why the Devils is a 3.75 out of 5. Bring it all around. All right, we can end the video now, but yeah. So I'm Matt. We got down at the bottom. Sorry. Or the top.
Josh?
And I'm Ian.
And we are
Hobby Vomit.
I'll be
Hobby Vomit. Bye.